Yo, what's up, guys? It's been a little bit. Hopefully, you guys can hear me, because I'm obviously in my car. But I guess I'm gonna get on here and talk about personality theory. I was trying to think about what I could talk about literally 5 seconds before I started this video, and just kind of tying it in with what I'm currently reading and researching and studying and all that kind of stuff for fun. And so I thought the title of this video would be called Personality Theory Makes You Egocentric, or something like that. Or at the very least, it leads to egocentricity and I'll kind of go into detail about what I mean. I think that most people take for granted that when they're studying personality theory, the hope is that as they learn more about themselves, that they can better understand those they're in relationship with. And some of this is my bias, but I think this is probably true for a lot of people and they just don't know it. When you're in the depths of personality theory, and this seems to be the majority of people, especially because of American culture being hyper consumeristic and superficial, when you're studying personality theory, let's say MBTI, socionics, Enneagram, Big Five, whatever the case is, your personality type becomes the primary way in which you've all of reality. People get deeper and deeper into personality theory. And what happens is you struggle appreciating life happenings, whether you meet someone new, meet a new friend, or get into a relationship. And personality theory hijacks your mental RAM. So because you have this mental construct and system that informs basically all of your perceptions and judgments, like personality theory does, you start to see people in a robotic fashion. Basically, just the input-output functioning of human beings. How is this person mentally comprised? What categories do people that I encounter fit within? And some of that can be generally helpful, but if that's your primary way of seeing reality and seeing people and seeing yourself, it kind of takes the spirit out of human interactions and out of the complexity of personality, the spiritual element of personality, which I believe is primarily a spiritual matter, that God has given us personal spirits and bodies that makes us unique, right? That's not like a crazy concept. And we all share in that reality, that we all have spirits and bodies. That's what it means to be created by God. And so what I've noticed this in myself. What's up, pro gamer? I've also noticed this in other people that are oh, of course. Why wouldn't there be a cop right here? It literally, you can't make it up. So I'm gonna have to hold my phone down here. Hopefully he's a little bit ahead of me, so I'm not uber concerned. Hopefully he switches lanes completely. Yeah, this girl's like right on my cheeks. But what happens is you become hyper self-referential, meaning you're constantly referencing yourself and how you operate when no one asked, no one was particularly curious per se, and you have to interject or to interject your type into conversations when it's not necessarily warranted or desired by anyone associated in the conversation besides yourself. And even if you're why are we stopping so harshly? And this lady behind me is on my butt. Even if you're curious about someone else's type in the back of your mind, and I'm not saying everyone's like this, but I do think a lot of people are like this in the personality community and they don't know, truly. And I don't mean that to roast anybody. I just genuinely think when you're in this kind of system, that's the myth and the fool's gold of personality theory, that the more you dive into it, the less you know of yourself. First of all, I think that's a metaphysical and philosophical issue and theological issue. The reason that most people, when they find themselves dissatisfied in typology, is because they're never asking themselves, first of all, why do I exist? Who made me, right? And so if I don't know that answer and I don't have a way of satisfying that answer, I'm going to be swimming in the abyss of introspective mud or murky waters. It's only when we look to God that we truly can see ourselves adequately based upon a standard of which he himself knows himself perfectly. And so when we look to him and he reflects the truth back to us, that's when we can actually do real introspective work, which is a matter of coming to know God and being in an intimate relationship with him. Otherwise, again, like it says in James, this is a little bit out of context, but we're like the man who looks in the mirror and walks away, and then as soon as he walks away, forgets what he's like. Because personality theory can't actually, it can be a good tool and it can be useful in certain contexts, but at the end of the day, I think it's a pseudo introspective tool. I think it's a insufficient tool, in my personal opinion. Some people might agree with that or disagree with that, which is completely fine. What's up? And it's really funny because it just kind of goes full circle. You get into typology, and then when you're curious about someone else's type, again, you can't escape the vacuum of your own self-referencing. Like, it only goes so far. It seems like you're not truly invested in understanding the other person. You're only interested in understanding the other person insofar as it can mirror back something of use to yourself, about yourself. And so that's a pretty selfish utilization of the tool, and it typically happens to most people within typological circles. And so that gets into deeper questions. You could say the metaphysics of personality, right? The philosophy of personality. What is it? What does it mean to be a mind-body composite that's animated differently from another body, the spirit-body composite, right? Namely, just being a different person, right? Having a different personality. Then you kind of get into nature, nurture, and that kind of relationship. Of which another thing too is sometimes people, this is more of a philosophical consideration, so it's more general, but and I'm also, when I say this, I'm not including myself in the struggle, because I struggle with this too at times. But what I've found in regards to worldview considerations, understanding what things that you believe, like your pre-beliefs, your presuppositions about reality. How do you justify those beliefs? What worldview are they more appropriately accounted for? So on and so forth. What I've noticed in the questions of philosophy is that human beings, we have a tendency to make things ultimate. We have a tendency to first of all, pridefully think we've come up with a new idea, not understanding thousands of years of human history that predate us, of people who are far smarter than we are, but because of our chronological snobbery, as C.S. Lewis put it, assume that the past has nothing to offer to the present. People, philosophers of the past, theologians of the past, so on and so forth, they were living in an ancient, archaic period in human history, and so nothing of what they said is truly valuable and has any utility for us today, which is absolutely absurd. Everything that we've created was built upon previous ideas through the centuries that have been more refined, allegedly, and not equally. Some ideas have regressed, other ideas have progressed, depending on what ideas you're referring to. But so I'm trying to get back to my point there. I guess the saying is there's nothing new under the sun. That there's a point that I was drawing there, and I completely forgot what it was. So, dang, I hate when I do that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. So, in terms of typology, that seems to be, we're just imbalanced. And you can see this in the Greek philosophers throughout, thousands of years ago. True generations, yo. So you're live streaming about why people should learn from previous mistakes and that of others. It's crazy to think that this is even necessary. Maybe I don't think that's my direct reason for making the video. If people benefit from it and don't make the same mistakes, then that's great, but I wouldn't say that that's my primary reason for making the video, because first of all, the typology community, again, being consumeristic, is pretty superficial, and people aren't really after truth. It doesn't seem. People are after arbitrary, subjective categories of personality type that are reduced to what's your favorite food, therefore you're an ENTJ, or something stupid like that. So I'm not really concerned with the majority of people who are watching. It's probably not that many, which is fine. But just general observations that I've noticed, that it's not helpful, the way that we probably use typology. Like, first of all, I don't know how helpful it is to be A, heavily invested in it, and B, first of all, making it ultimate. It's your primary worldview. It's the primary way in which you see personality type the primary way in which you see your relationships and how they function, and just the flesh and bone people you're in front of. I always have bad connection over here. I think there's far better tools, to be quite honest. And so, yeah, I mean, that seems to be pretty obvious. And I think most rational people would probably have that relationship to typology. Probably. I could be wrong about that. But there's only so much that you can explore in typology too. Like, there's a certain point in which it just becomes dead, right? At least to me. And again, some people might be like, no, that's not true. It's like, many people have come and contributed a lot to the typology community and have left. And I think it's necessary, helpful, realistic, because there's more to learn, there's more to understand, there's more to explore. That, like, it just gets to the point where if you've talked about all you can talk about, at what point do you not realize that your ability to say more and to extend the value of what you're saying, it just starts to, and that could be a lack of creativity. It's possible, but I also think it's an inherent lack of potential in the system itself, because I don't think it's a tool. Bro, what in the fuck? What's going? Why are we stopping here? Why are we in the middle of the road? Yeah, I definitely almost smacked this dude. It's cool. Yikes! Oh, it's because there's construction. You gotta love it. So, yeah, I just, but yeah, people have been philosophically imbalanced for eons, making one idea the most ultimate way of perceiving something, and not questioning whether or not that idea has holes in it, or it just, yeah, it kind of breaks down at a certain point. And so, what else? Yeah, and some people, I can think of some of the objections, like, well, we don't have enough data, we don't have enough this, we don't have enough that. And it's like, dude, you just be better off just going down a different stream, in my personal opinion. Just becomes, the question is, then you have to ask, like, is this actually helpful or is it not? Is it like, and if I think it's helping, okay, well then how is it helping you? Like, actually, not in some superficial way. Because here's another thing too, like, some people are like, well, I'm having better conversations with people because I know how they think and all this stuff. It's like, okay, so what did you do different that you weren't doing before that now you know to do, and it's made a positive impact? And it really seems to come down to the person was actually starting to be intentional with the person they're conversing with. Well, that has nothing to do necessarily with typology. It just sounds like before, first of all, you could argue that the reason that you weren't actually being intentional was because you had a certain system that was missing so much information in real time about the person or what they're actually saying, that in effort to categorize them, that you're playing chess in your mind and missing the person. Then how about not being distracted with a ongoing thought model? How about actually listening and engaging and asking questions, and not in a self-referential way where you're seeking some type of feedback on personality that that satisfies your desire to be the type that you think you are. Whatever. That was a lot of word salad there, but so my point is, it seems like typology in many ways is an extra step that's probably not even necessary in the whole scheme of things. Like, and another factor too is people just don't know how to communicate well, generally speaking. So just because you've learned a personality system doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be any more inclined to communicate effectively now that you have a certain model of language. It still takes your will to actually open your mouth and engage with the person that you're trying to engage with. So my thing is, like, if you haven't exhausted out those more practical avenues of trying to understand people, and yeah, then it's like, what's even what does it mean to understand another person? There's just so many things that I feel like in typology are kind of, just taken for granted. I don't know. But that's kind of the things that I've been, literally I just came up with that. I guess it was marinating down in my subconscious somewhere. And I'm not arguing that you shouldn't use models, you shouldn't use systems of communication, that those things are always erroneous and pointless. That's not my point. Every form of communication implies some structure, some model, some system in place that allows you to communicate effectively. So that's not, again, that would be the I'm making this up, but the fallacy of making one thing more ultimate than the other, when in reality they're not. I'm not arguing to erase taxonomies from language. You couldn't that would be impossible to communicate. And even your body language would be a taxonomy. It would just be a indirect or inarticulable, I guess you could say, form of communication. But you're still communicating, and body language still has some type of codified representation. You know, if you're shrugging your shoulders to someone's question, you're kind of mopey, like, yeah, that generally communicates indifference or aloofness or, reservedness, whatever. So people can intuitively grasp those cues as communicating something definitive, like that you don't have to guess with that's pretty obvious. And so, no, you don't just avoid categories and definitions and taxonomies and models and all those kind of things, but you evaluate them. And when you're in real time with another person, there are times to use the models, there are times to use the personality systems, but you shouldn't be doing it at the expense of actually intaking the person, actually digesting the person in front of you, because you could be missing subtle cues in front of you, and it's just, and this is coming from someone that's very preoccupied with the things that I think, and thinking in models and thinking in structures, and I'm extremely preoccupied with that. But I've just found personally, for me, the less I think about the world in regards to personality theory, the more real things are. My interactions are more organic. I'm not as self-referencing as I would be otherwise. I'm not playing chess in my mind to kind of strategize conversation in a certain way to learn more about. And again, that stuff is fun. But at a certain point, I feel like you just got to grow out of it. You got to be like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. Like this, that's just me. Other people can be like, nope, I'm not. I don't care. Quite frankly, you can do whatever you want to do. You can say I'm full of shit. That's fine. It's just interesting. Just an observation. There's also, this is another aspect. You also yourself based specifically the type that you are. Like, I can't build good relationships with people because I'm bipolar. Like, that to me is stupid. Are there challenges if you're someone who's bipolar, or I can't understand deductive logic because I'm TI polar? Are there challenges associated with understanding any form of logic, really? If you're TI polar, probably, yeah. The question is, first of all, have you exhausted your options? How much have you worked at it? Like, you're still an acting agent. You still have freedom, right? And if you have freedom in the sense that you're capable of initiating things, and growing in something and acquiring greater skill at it, like, you can only go up. In my mind, with certain things, now, obviously, if someone has like an IQ of like 40, or whatever the case is, their potential is obviously extremely low. That's just a fact of reality. But if you're not generally, if you're not that person, and you may not be the smartest, but you're definitely not the dumbest, there's obviously there's only up, really. Let's say you suck at whatever, you suck at something. Okay, well, how are you learning? Are you learning from other people? Are you putting in the time and the effort to develop that skill? I don't foresee someone putting in time getting worse. It just it doesn't correlate in my mind. I can't comprehend that. You might have extremely slow progress, and you may be very dissatisfied with the progress, but that doesn't mean you don't have progress. Like, I don't see, and now someone might say, well, what's the point of investing in that thing if your progress is extremely slow? And that kind of gets into the idea of putting people in positions to succeed where their natural skill sets already lie. And generally speaking, yes, in a corporate environment, yeah, that's specialization. That's probably a more helpful utilization of your resources. But if we're speaking about being a person, right, that is not just localized to work, like relationships, does that apply to work? Yes, which means it's a different type of relationship. But your relationship with your family or your spouse or whatever the case is, like, if you suck at it naturally, and whatever that means, in my opinion, if you put forth effort in something and consistency, you're guaranteed to grow at it. So the question is, well, how valuable is it for you to grow in this area, considering the fact that you're always in relationship with people? If you're always in relationship with people, it seems to be of pretty significant motivation to probably try to figure out how to grow. I mean, that doesn't seem like something that's like, oh, I'll just sweep that under the rug. It's like, okay, well, you're always in relationships with people. So in terms of effectiveness, it seems pretty effective for the thing of which you're always invested in some capacity, to invest in the skill at growing that skill set. And yeah, that's probably easier said than done. But yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. So yeah, that's all I have, I think. All right, peace.